Yo. So this has been getting really popular and there's been a lot of videos coming from this AU5 idea of detail preserving clippers. So he's basically clipping something, but he's preserving the high end so that it doesn't get um like taken out. Basically, it's when you clip something, it with a lot of low end, the low end ends up creating so much harmonic stuff that like the high end just ends up disappearing, I guess. But yeah, so let's watch this video and I'll break it down and hopefully I can get a better understanding as I try to explain it because I copied him and then there's other people doing um, variations on it. So we'll just start with the OG video. And yeah, let's go.
Yes, but first, what does that even mean and why would you want that? Clipping is what happens when you drive a signal hard enough into a saturator to the point where it starts to clip the top and bottom of the waveform. For instance, when you clip a sine wave hard enough, it begins to turn into a square wave. Now, clipping is a really useful technique for both mixing and sound design. The caveat with clipping is when you clip a signal too hard, the peaks get flattened and any detail that is present in there also gets removed. So for instance, a more complex waveform like this sine wave with a higher frequency saw wave, when we clip that, the peaks get completely flattened. There's a plugin called Newfangled Saturate which claims to be a detail preserving clipper, and as you can see when I increase the drive, as it clips, it actually preserves this detail in the peaks. But that plugin is $50 and I wanted to see if I could recreate it with even more flexibility. And it turns out you can with what I like to call high-pass fold-back distortion. Get ready, here's how we do it. First, set your saturator to digital clip mode to create a hard clipper, then create an effect rack. Then drop a utility.
All right. So let's just pause it because he talks really fast and we need to get a more clear understanding of what's going on. So what he's doing is he has a saturator. Um, let's start something new. So I'm gonna grab operator and I'll just grab this MIDI and I'm gonna copy along with what he's doing. So we can kind of understand what he's doing. So he chose digital clip mode and then he grouped it. And then what does he do? He drops a utility into the second chain and inverts the polarity. So if you grab a utility and you drop one into a second chain and you invert the left and the right, that'll invert the polarity of it. So let's see what he says about that. He says this creates a delta rack. So this whole thing he's calling the rack, right? Let's see, is everything working here? Bloop, bloop, bloop. All right, so this creates a delta rack so that anything that goes above the clipping, so anything that's basically getting clipped, anything that's loud enough to hit the threshold of this distortion, this clipper, um, gets um, that's actually what comes through. So let's listen to this. We'll listen to it over here. Uh, okay, so you can't really hear anything because nothing has hit the threshold yet. So I'm gonna add in a layer. Let's just create a weird messed up sound with some high end, right? Okay, so now we're getting stuff. If I turn it off, it sounds like that. Let's grab this guy. Okay, so this is just getting this. It's just giving back that part of it for some reason. Um, it looks so this orange thing, it looks like it's hitting it. So it must be hitting the threshold, I guess, which is why okay. I'm trying to understand this better. Okay, so it is only so this utility is deleting anything that isn't getting changed by this saturator. Essentially, so if I turn this off, it's just going to completely cancel out the sound. But as soon as I turn this on, whatever this does to the sound is going to be kept, but only the effect of this saturator. Okay, so let's turn it up. All right, so once we hit the threshold, it starts sounding like everything is in there. That was so basically the saturator is changing the sound a lot because I'm blasting the audio into it. Instead of using this, I'm just gonna add a utility. Okay. All right, let's keep going with this video.
Delta, and then create another.
Okay, so he names this Delta because he's a fancy math man and he has to call things scientifically words. Okay, so this is the chain Delta or basically the difference, I guess, the difference between the original and the saturated, I guess. Whatever. He just groups it. What does he do next? He rename this delta and create another effect rack. I'm going to then mute the delta chain and add another hard clipper. Okay, so he opens this up, he mutes it.
Delta chain, and then add another hard clipping
Another hard clipping
after this saturator.
saturator, right? So let's just copy this guy here. And then he throws on a compactor, which I've honestly never used before for anything. I don't really know what it does, but it's a free plugin from Kilohertz. If you want to grab that.
Then set its sidechain input to the track you're on.
Okay, pause. We're setting the sidechain input of this compactor to track 124. And then I believe he takes the audio of the delta, but let's make sure he does that. Oh God.
This crazy sound.
Oops. Sorry.
Post effects.
Okay, delta post effects. So he goes here. He goes to delta post FX. So I could have done delta post effects after the saturator, or I could have done basically, I'm taking it from this, everything that's coming through this delta thing. I could have taken it after the utility or the saturator or just the whole thing, I think. So there's this saturating utility. So he just does the whole thing. So that means whatever goes through, whatever basically comes out of this rack is going into this compactor, which I don't really know what the compactor does, so he'll probably explain that.
Here is what's known as a sidechain ring modulator.
All right, so here he's explaining the compactor. It's a side chain ring modulator that takes the wait, sidechain input amplitude and subtracts it from another signal. Okay. Okay, so it takes the sidechain input amplitude. So it's taking the difference that this saturator is creating. Basically, it's taking the delta from the saturator and subtracting that from another signal. And then it's subtracting it from the not. I don't even know, man. I don't even know. It's subtracting it from like whatever's going through this, which is like just the clipped sound because there's a clipper before it. I don't know. This isn't. I'm not smart enough for this. But I'm trying to understand this. Maybe you understand this better.
Amplitude and subtracts it from another signal with sample accuracy. What we're going to do is turn the attack down to 0, the related to ISP mode.
Okay, ISP 000 000 ISP, and then he takes the sidechain input 3 plus 4, which just means it's actually taking the sidechain, whatever you routed into this thing right here. You just have to click that to like turn on sidechain input, I think.
Enable sidechain input 3.4. We're also going to turn the stereo all the way up to
Okay.
channels. Now, what I
To unlink the channels. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that. So I guess there's three. It's taking the left and the right, and then it's just making a stereo, essentially.
hold back distortion. Anything that goes above the clipping frame.
Okay.
Enable sidechain input 3.4. We're also going to turn the stereo all the way up to unlink the channels. Now, what I just made is simply a fold back distortion. Anything that goes above
All right, what he made is a fold back distortion. Anything that goes above the clipping threshold gets folded back, whatever that means.
the clipping threshold gets folded back because the signal gets subtracted.
Okay, so you can see the direction of the saw wave goes left down to right, but then once it goes above, it starts going left up to right. So that's what he means by folding back. It's like it literally is like flipping it like a page. It's like if it was on a page, it's like flipping it over.
Subtract the base frequencies from our signal. We just want to subtract the top end. That's where the detail. Anything that goes above the clipping threshold gets folded back because the signal gets subtracted. But we don't want to subtract the base frequencies from our signal. We just want to subtract the top end. That's where the detail.
Okay, we don't want to subtract the base frequencies. We just want to subtract the top end because that's where the detail is that we're trying to preserve. Okay, so he's gonna add a EQ on the delta channel, I believe. So this compactor is subtracting one. It's subtracting the delta um, from the original sound, and the original sound when you're clipping it, it's basically destroying the high end. So when you subtract the high end, you're basically like adding it back in. Cause like I don't know, I feel like if you take a sound and then like I don't really know what subtraction means, but I'm assuming it would like kind of create that sound within it. I guess if that makes sense. Cause like subtracting from a sound is gonna like change it.
So I'm going to drop an EQ8 onto the delta rack.
Okay, so he just grabs an EQ and he drags it on the delta rack. And then he throws makes it a high pass filter. So the compactor, and then he like macros this frequency here. So this is the high pass frequency. So you can control that. So it's the compactor is now subtracting the clipped high end only from the sound.
enable high pass, but I'm going to use the 12 decibel per octave slope for minimal phase shifting, and then just bring it to around like 2-3K. Now we're actually getting some detail preservation while still clipping it. There are multiple ways to control the amount of detail preservation, but I like to use a limiter after the high pass and reduce the ceiling.
Okay, so I don't have this waveform thingy, but we can just use our ears. And okay, so all right, so you can see if I have this EQ all the way up, that's basically just me clipping it. But if I start bringing in the high end on this delta chain, you can hear it starts bringing it in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group this. I'm going to put this here. And then I'm going to send this to macro. Oops. Okay, what I'm going to do actually is macro this to macro 1, and then macro this gain to macro 2. And this is like our input gain. All right. So by letting in this high pass frequencies, it's gonna start preserving whatever is above this number. And what I could do is group this. I'm just gonna do this because I want to compare. But honestly, we can compare just by doing that. But essentially, if I added 12 dB of gain into a digital clipper, it's going to sound different. So if I do this, boom, boom, boom. So we got this, 12 dB going into a clipper. And then we turn that off, turn this on. It's still clipping it. It just keeps that high end. I want to change the sound a little bit. Let's see what else he says.
The high pass cutoff and limiter ceiling to macros. And for
Oh yeah, he adds a limiter after the delta chain, I believe. That's kind of
decibel
what
per
I
octave slope
missed.
for minimal phase shifting, and then just bring it to around like 2-3K. Now we're actually getting some detail preservation while still clipping it. There are multiple ways to control the amount of detail preservation, but I like to use a limiter after the high pass and reduce the ceiling.
All right, so to control the amount, interesting, I guess. To control the amount of detail preservation, he uses a limiter and lowers the ceiling. Okay. So if we map, um, if I click on this, I can map that here, or no? Wait, how do I do this? I want to map this to that, right? What the hell? Let's map that here. It's kind of a convoluted rack, but um, it'll be simpler if I just minimize everything. I can delete that. So basically, you just got this little rack here. I could take it out of this group. So let's just mess with this ceiling here. I feel like all this ceiling is doing is changing the volume, right? Because the ceiling on the limiter is just gonna like cut it off at a certain point. So like, you know what I mean? If I solo this and then I lower the ceiling, it's just gonna make it quieter. So that's just like this is basically the amount of highs essentially. So if it's maxed out, if it's maxed out on the ceiling, then it'll just let in the most high end. Because you can hear when I turn it down, it's like basically just clipping it and not preserving the highs. But if I turn it up, I think you should be able to hear that, right? Let's maybe just, I feel like it was obvious on this note here. Yeah. All right, let's see what else he says.
Pass cutoff and limiter ceiling to macros. And for comparison with the same gain, this is detail preservation off, and this is detail preservation on. Here's a more practical but extreme example of a breakbeat over top of an overblown sub. No detail preservation, the sub just eats all the top end, and now width. The groove actually comes through.
Okay, so let's see. There's like, you know, we could use a digital clipper, yeah. But I'm assuming if we just swapped out like any other saturator distortion, this should work. Because the compactor is just subtracting the high end. So this is detail preserving clipper. Digital. Okay, so yeah, I'll just give this to you guys and la 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 la. I'll play it on this bass. I was using it on this bass for this part, so I'll like do an A/B test. It's kind of nice. It adds some like dynamics back, basically. So just listen to it in solo. That's just normally clipping it and then preserving highs. This was the other rack. I didn't have, there's some other macro that's not in this that I just added to this one. High pass the input gain. So yeah, I'll just give this to you guys. And I'm sorry that it took me so long to understand this, but I feel like just going through that really slowly was helpful for me and hopefully helpful for you because like you get all these like producer content like shorts and reels and stuff, and it really takes like a long time to understand what the hell they're talking about, and they have to pack it into such a short time to like keep people's attention. So yeah, I think it's helpful to just go over that stuff really slowly. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon.